Hey there, folks. I'm Mark, in affiliation with Spectrum Pulse, and we got more Encanto as the holiday music departs, along with, well, a lot of frustrations. This is Billboard Breakdown. I don't remember. This is always one of the most exasperating times of year to be a chart watcher. Yeah, the Christmas music is gone and the chart resets back to equilibrium, but often that comes with an influx of minor charting tracks that are using the open space to lodge traction when they wouldn't get it any other time, mostly because the majority might not be any good. But now it's even more odd, because not only is Encanto charting more songs, next week we're going to get an album bomb from The Weeknd, possibly Gunna as well, and who knows how long any of this is actually going to last. But what is somewhat predictable is our top 10, where to nobody's surprise, Easy on Me by Adele reclaimed the number one. Consistently dominant on radio with good sales and streaming, she probably stands the best chance against whatever album bomb that's coming. Although Stay by The Kid Laroi and Justin Bieber could make an argument with number two, although they lag in pretty much every category and might be close to peaking. Then we got Heat Waves by Glass Animals at number 3. Somehow the radio and streaming run for the song is still not dead yet, and that leads over Shivers by Ed Sheeran at number 4, which didn't have anything close to the stable radio growth that I was expecting for it. Then we got the biggest streaming song right now at number 5, We Don't Talk About Bruno by the Encanto cast. Make no mistake, this has no radio, just huge streaming, solid sales, could even get higher next week. In other words, I feel really bad for any parents stuck at home with young kids that has to listen to this on loop. Then leaping back to the top 10, we got Industry Baby by Lil Nas X and Jack Harlow at number 6. Streaming is still good, but the radio is actually rotating it out. And Cold Heart PNAU Remix by Elton John and Dua Lipa at number 7, which is huge on sales and actually has solid radio, but lags on streaming. Possibly because it's terrible, but I couldn't possibly say more. Our next two songs are both returns to the top 10. Bad Habits by Ed Sheeran at number 8, which got a big, somewhat unexpected radio surge this week that started to die off pretty quick. And Need to Know by Doja Cat at number 9, which has radio inertia, but is definitely rotating out. And that leaves a new arrival to the top 10 that is depressingly unsurprising, Super Gremlin by Kodak Black at number 10. It's huge on streaming, and nowhere else. Now that actually takes us to our losers and dropouts, and we actually don't have any losers this week, and all the dropouts, they're pretty much holiday music. But that places us in a bit of a quandary when it comes to our returns and our gains, because outside of the 17 returns that we'll go through, 58 songs picked up 10 or more positions and would qualify as a gain under my rules. Hell, outside of the top 10, it makes more sense for me to list the songs that didn't pick up more positions rather than rattle through half the chart. So that's actually what I'm gonna do. ABCDEFU by Gale remains stranded outside the top 10 at 11, mostly because the radio's not really there. Broadway Girls by Lil Durk featuring Morgan Wallen couldn't make any headway beyond number 27, and the last few are actually all from the late Juice WRLD in the bottom quarter of the Hot 100. Burn at 77, Wandered to LA with Justin Bieber at 89, and Already Dead at 92. Charming. Honestly, the returns here might be more interesting, because we got the probably should be recurrent songs in the top 50, and at the very bottom we got a slew of tracks that are clinging to life where there's no guarantee they're gonna last. In the former category, Chasing After You by Reinhardt and Maren Morris at 50, Leave the Door Open by Silk Sonic at 49, Pepis by Farruko at 46, I'm thrilled that it's back even if it's now thoroughly caught between years, Montero, Call Me By Your Name by Lil Nas X at 41, Beggin' by Måneskin at 38, If I Didn't Love You by Jason Aldean and Carrie Underwood at 35, and the two largest returns broke past Billboard's rule of falling below the top 25 even after a year means you're out. Save Your Tears by The Weeknd and Ariana Grande at 18, and Levitating by Dua Lipa at 12. Yeah, it appears they still have that much traction. I'm surprised too. Now in the bottom half, tough for me to gauge whether any of this is actually going to stick, especially with the album bombs coming, and a lot of these we've seen fall off and back on the chart before. Too Easy by Gunna and Future at 84, Fair Trade by Drake and Travis Scott at 85, Volvi by Aventura and Bad Bunny at 86, Come Through by Her featuring Chris Brown at 88, Baddest by YoungBoy, Chris Brown and 2 Chainz at 94, Me or Some by Nardo Wick, Lil Baby and Future at 96, Bad Man Smooth Criminal by Polo G at 98, and Just Just About Over You by Priscilla Block at 100. The only song I think might have more future here is Moth to a Flame by Swedish House Mafia and The Weeknd at 95. Might get a parallel boost with The Weeknd's album bomb coming next week. You occasionally see that sort of cross-pollination. It might happen, could be interesting. But now we've got a pretty stacked and complicated list of new arrivals, 12 of them. Starting off with number 99, Never Wanted to Be That Girl by Carly Pearce and Ashley McBryde. This is one of those cases where I'm happy the song is charting because it's legit great and both these women can make a lot out of it, but I'm still pissed about the label machinations that stuck us here. Next Girl was on a chart run. It's a legitimately fantastic song, and Big Machine can't get it out of the top 20 on country radio? Are you kidding me? And you can't let both of these women get a solid run of their own properly? You gotta push the duet instead? You need to? It's frustrating because, again, the song is great. The sandy percussion playing off the low smolder of the electric guitar and the prominent twang, some really solid vocal interplay on the hook, and the content is multifaceted and pretty morally complicated. Ashley McBryde playing the woman who got caught up in the affair, Carly Pearce playing the wife who got cheated on, and who will take whatever methods she has to find some sort of truth. And there's a lot of humanity in the bone-deep sadness and the vulnerability of everyone involved. It plays in the whole does he love you mold, but does so really, really well. But I don't know, I just think it kind of sucks that Music Row feels it has to push women against each other on single choices like this, but then combine them onto a single record while letting a lot of mediocre, interchangeable guys get all the space they want on the charts. I mean, it's a great song, but I really hope more singles from that Carly Pearce album or any upcoming Ashley McBryde album get the same amount of airtime. You know that they deserve. Number 97, I Love You So by the Walters. I love you so. Okay, this is a song from 2014, from an utterly unknown folk rock act that went viral on TikTok, because that's what 2022 needs more of, right? Seriously, this band had effectively broken up after their self-released 2015 album went nowhere until this song caught on, and then they got back together because, hey, why not? And okay, alright, it would be a cute story if the song was good, and wow, this isn't good at all. The sort of mid-range TV soundtrack filler or borderline commercial core that at least bands like the 88 could make somewhat catchy. This, meanwhile, has an utterly limp, watery guitar line, a lot of willowy vocal harmonies that make it feel a lot more saccharine than it should be, which in the tradition of the sour edges of most of this dreck is all about a miserable scene where a guy is one of many partners of the girl and needs to get some self-respect and leave her, but is still hopelessly in love and just won't go away. The reason I generally hate songs like this is because it feels so smarmy and insincere in how pathetic it is. It's mewling and whiny, basically a guilt trip to plead for this girl to just let him go, or, you know, really in the subtext, just let everyone else go so they can go be toxic together. So you get something that's deeply derivative and insufferable. TikTok, you sure you want to revive these guys' careers? Really? Number 93, Blackball by YoungBoy Never Broke Again and Birdman. And I see I got a mother baiting on me. No, I'm gonna get paid, can't take this hate all free. Okay, question. How many of you actually knew that YoungBoy Never Broke Again put out an entire collab mixtape with Birdman? Second question. Why? What blackmail material does Birdman have in order to engineer songs like this happening? Now, doing a little bit of research, I actually discovered this has been a thing in the works since 2018, and right now I'm asking who the hell this is even for? Well, what you realize is that Birdman doesn't even seem to be on this song at all, but he's still got a credit as YoungBoy tries to croon through a dying woodwind and a frail acoustic line that is so faded alongside the brittle tapping trap skitter that it's barely even there. there opposite his vocals. Seriously, did anyone properly master this? Now, maybe this is me being a little bit too charitable, but I actually think the hook is fine enough until you realize the entire track is an extended paranoid gloating session with a sort of gunplay and flimsy flexing that tends to be YoungBoy Never Broke Again's usual, and he wonders why on the second verse the girl doesn't seem to like him that much. No, really, by the end of this, I'm just kind of baffled. It's charting because of the video, not because 2022 is going to see a Birdman revival, so, yeah. Let's move on. Number 91, Come Back as a Country Boy by Blake Shelton.
Just keep me dead, 'cause a country boy's all that I know how to be. Yeah!
There is a part of me that's sincerely tempted to throw the title line here back in Blake Shelton's face, because if you want to die and then come back as a country boy, what the hell are you now? Well, that's the thing. He's plenty comfortable being this country boy right now, complete with verses overstuffed with oversold cliches. You probably thank songwriter Hardy for that, along with the overblown production coming out of Scott Hendricks, with all the grunting, the ridiculous ad-libs, the fizzy clapping percussion, and the synth-driven bombast that doesn't blend well at all. And so Blake Shelton doesn't want to do anything remotely different. So what's the drama of a song like this? It honestly just damn near feels like a parody of itself. That's how hard it's leaning on a lot of country buzzwords and cliches with so much stomping presence and the guitars wailing through all of it. But with the lack of any real conflict, it feels like so much flash but no punch at all. It's clearly trying to rip off the formula that made God's Country a thing, but that song at least tried to lean into blues rock and gospel and some slightly stronger sentiments. Whereas this is overproduced crap. Next, number 90, Home Sweet by Russell Dickerson.
Baby, all I know ain't nothing like home sweet. You and me.
Okay, see what I mean about male country acts that have no good reason to still be charting hits? I don't think Russell Dickerson has made a single song I actually remember, let alone like, especially with this single from a 2020 album I didn't even know existed, and yet I'll give him this. This is the sort of boyfriend country that he's at least trying to crank up some swell and bombast, driving off the hand claps, the booming percussion, and his belting. Which when you factor in the higher pitched backing vocals, you realize the guitar is just kind of getting swallowed up in the mix, and there's no groove to speak of, especially with how filmy a lot of the acoustics sound with the weird spongy effects around them. Yeah, okay, the piano accents are kind of nice, Russell Dickerson seems like he's trying, and I do think the song actually does earn its build up off the bridge as the guitars smash back through for the final hook, especially as the love song builds its whole finding love anywhere sentiment reasonably well. But I don't know, it feels kind of overproduced and had me thinking that a more organic, warm instrumental would do a lot better. And when you discover that Charles Kelly of Lady A is a co-writer of this thing, I realize you could potentially kill two birds with one stone here. Give the song to Charles Kelly, leave Dan Huff out of the production, he's been on a losing streak recently, have Lady A break up, because let's face it, it's over, and we can go back to forgetting that Russell Dickerson ever existed. Hell, maybe get that solo Charles Kelly album that could be actually kind of great. And while I might be able to dream, honestly this isn't great, but it's harmless. Unlike number 87, AA by Walker Hayes. You know, Monument, just because he got one hit of a fluke doesn't mean he needs to be a thing. Putting aside fancy-like, Walker Hayes is just a profoundly limited performer. It's why he didn't have so many hits for a long time. But nope, we have another song from his upcoming album in this month, one that in certain circles I follow had already been called really damn bad. Oh my god, it absolutely is. But for slightly different reasons than you might expect. For one, I don't know what the hell Shane McAnally is doing here on production, but every pickup sounds like shit. The acoustics have no warmth, the electric guitar is more ugly ugly texture clipping the mix, which also pretty much describes how painfully ugly Hayes' voice sounds, all backed up by the cheapest sounding programmed percussion in a mix that somehow still comes out muddy. But then there's the writing, and where I've seen some backlash on how Walker Hayes doesn't want his girls on the pole as being kind of anti-sex worker, look, trust me when I say I don't think he remotely thought about this that hard. Because in the bigger picture, this is just playing to a lot of hacky sitcom dad archetypes, where he doesn't drink as much or chew or smoke anymore, just trying to be the upright, stand-up American guy who can change his own oil and have a beer and then satisfy a wife where he outright says that she married down. I mean, dude, between this and Fancy Like, you're not exactly revealing a healthy marriage here. But I gotta say it, the line that really jumped out to me was the very obvious Alabama coach Nick Saban reference. And while I could highlight outside of Alabama, there are some folks who are distinctly less fond of him. Cleveland and Miami spring to mind. But I just think I can appreciate the irony of Georgia rolling tide right back to Alabama just a day or two ago. Whatever, this is bad. It's less novelty and quotably offensive like Fancy Like, but it sounds considerably worse. Let's not make this a thing. Number 83, Dos Oruguitas by Sebastian Yatra. So there are 4 songs from Encanto that hit the Hot 100 just this week, and this is one actually from a Colombian artist that's one of the few songs that's fully in Spanish from the film, although still written by Lin-Manuel Miranda. Although, to someone who doesn't actually speak Spanish, it seems a little less obvious. I also think it helps that the gentle acoustics build up really nicely off the touches of arranged instrumentation and pattering percussion. And Sebastian Yatra is a singer who can sell this whole lightweight fable about 2 caterpillars growing up together with a lot of the quivering sensitivity without feeling all that sappy. Again, it might to someone speak Spanish, but I don't. Maybe it's how it doesn't quite feel as Disney-fied as so many of these songs can be, but it's fine. It's generally nice. Decent enough song. I'll take it. Number 82, Waiting on a Miracle by Stephanie Beatriz.
Can't make the flowers bloom. I can't take another night up in my room, waiting on a miracle.
Okay, I'm gonna try and appreciate this without the knowledge that Stephanie Beatriz played a Rosa on Brooklyn Nine-Nine. She's a terrific actress there, and pretty expressive and talented with voice work, so I had some hopes for this. And honestly, there's a lot to like about this song. The cycling acoustics playing off the arranged swells and the escalating hand claps that actually build to a pretty solid crescendo. The whole frustrated sentiment of Mirabel not having powers while the rest of her family does. It does build to a climax. And man, I wish that the vocals were remotely good. I can't speak to Beatriz in the movie, I still haven't seen it, but trying to sing in character can be really hard, and between the nasal vocal tone and how poorly her vocals seem to be mic'd, they sound weirdly compressed, and with no support in the mix, the flaws are all the more evident, but she just cannot sell the bombast here. Again, I want to be nice, because I do think this is pretty good, but the delivery holds it back from being great, or something I want to revisit. Gotta say it. Number 69, Fingers Crossed by Lauren Spencer Smith.
All the hours spent giving advice on how to write your songs. All you did was prove me wrong when you said you loved me. Well, you must have had your fingers crossed.
Okay, how to explain this? Alright, Lauren Spencer Smith is a Canadian teenager who was actually on American Idol for a brief time, and after leaving pretty early on in the process, she's been self-releasing songs. This went viral on TikTok. What I find interesting is that she doesn't seem to be signed yet, according to what I looked up on Billboard, so while some people are making the Olivia Rodrigo comparisons, she doesn't seem to be nearly as well connected, at least right now, especially as her producer doesn't jump off the page either. So with this song, okay, I get the driver's license comparison with the slightly quicker groove, the whole teenage post-breakup vibe for what sounds like another musician, but while it's playing for the same market, it is quite different. It's more acoustic with some of those snaps. Spencer Smith has a much throatier vocal tone that can sound a little bit more husky, not quite as clear or refined, and unlike Rodrigo, where it was clear she was not over things, Spencer Smith absolutely is, and she's looking to vent at everything that she gave this guy, only for him to lie and lead her on. But I don't know, I don't think it's better. There's none of those subtle touches in the production that would have added more flavor. There's less to the central metaphor, and while Olivia Rodrigo has always had some of that theater girl vibe, she was mostly able to transcend it with details, or at least a groove that didn't feel as oddly bouncy as this one does. I don't know, I don't think this is bad by any means, but I don't see this as having the same magnetism or becoming the same phenomenon. Just kind of okay, I guess. Number 68, Flower Shops by ERNEST featuring Morgan Wallen.
Day for flower shops.
I really wish I could avoid talking about the controversy with the song, but I can't, sadly, because the Grand Ole Opry decided that in letting ERNEST perform, they brought Morgan Wallen on stage as well. Now, there's a lot of tangled, ugly baggage surrounding how much anyone should care about the Grand Ole Opry. I could go on for a solid hour with some of my grievances, but I think a huge point of frustration is the mixed messaging here. If country music's institutions are committing to reform and platforming more black artists in the scene, which to their credit, the Opry seems to be trying, it sends a really bad message to then give Morgan Wallen the stage backing for a guy who was originally known for cutting country rap songs and co-writing for Chris Lane and Sam Hunt. Just because he's successful doesn't mean he is owed this platform. The Opry has made a point of that plenty of times. That goes all the way back to Hank Williams. And instead of the circle remaining unbroken, it highlights which people are allowed to be comfortable within that circle. And you know, all this is a real goddamn shame, because otherwise, this is a really damn good song. The pedal steel playing off the warm acoustics and the crisp sandy drums, the writing describing the imploding relationship where the love is gone, but it might be a good day for the flower shops as he buys something to apologize, and ERNEST really performs this well. Honestly, I'm a little bit surprised that Morgan Wallen's even here at all. ERNEST could have sold this on his own just fine, especially as Morgan Wallen doesn't have any credits beyond his performance. And again, that highlights just how much of this he's a name draw rather than adding anything special to the song. I mean, it's kind of a shame the business of all this sours something that could have otherwise been really good, at least for me. Leaves me wanting to like this more than I actually do. And that's a shame. Number 67, What Else Can I Do by Diane Guerrero and Stephanie Beatriz.
This is boring, but now that I feel the air as I climb and dive, push through. What else can I do?
Alright, end things off with two more Encanto songs. And you know, I mostly like this too. Diane Guerrero is a better singer, takes more off the lead off the electric guitars to play to a more interesting groove, with Beatriz mostly throwing in ad-libs and slightly more subdued vocal passages to play off the bouncier acoustics and the fizzy shudder of the percussion. You can definitely tell that Lin-Manuel Miranda's tendency to overwrite his lyrics is still present. His voice still really cuts through whoever is singing, even if I think the struggle that Isabella describes to create something less perfect but more true to herself feels pretty well realized. But then there's that electric guitar. Lin-Manuel Miranda said he was inspired by the Spanish rock movement of the 90s for some of the rhythms here, but he seems to have left any trace of actual texture or edge by the wayside. Maybe because it's more Disney, but more likely because the production on the soundtrack is just not consistently good. Again, I mostly can tolerate this, especially given how it builds up, but I haven't found that great moment from this film to really win me over. And that leaves us with number 62, The Family Madrigal by Encanto Cast.
Madrigal, we're on our way, where all the people are fantastical but magical. I'm part of family Madrigal.
Well, this is an introduction song, playing off some of the accordion, the more developed rhythm section, and you know, there are songs that can work from films that are standalone, and this is not one of them. The sort of broad cast showcase where Mirabelle rattles through all the family members and the powers they have, all the while dancing around the fact that she doesn't have any. This is another song where Lin-Manuel Miranda's writing cuts through very obviously, and while Stephanie Beatriz has less to do in terms of singing and handling the fast-paced flow of the track, track, it still feels really overwritten and kind of clunky in a way that doesn't seem to be all that well paced, especially in setting up some of the characters on the song. Hell, Bruno is mentioned in the second verse, and that just feels a little bit too early in order to set the right tension and vibe. Overall, just feels kind of deflective, lacking in a lot of focus. And while of course some of that is the point, it doesn't exactly make for an overture that wins me over, I gotta say that at least. And that is this week. My god, there are so many snippets of quality here, but not nearly enough where I can't tack on stupid asterisks. Hell, both the country songs that are getting the best and the honorable mention for this week, I can do that. I Never Want to Be That Girl by Carly Pearce and Ashley McBryde for the former, and Flower Shops by ERNEST featuring Morgan Wallen for the latter. And I mean, they've got these big industry frustrations surrounding them for different reasons. And Morgan Wallen didn't need to be on the song at all. Now for the worst, yeah, AA by Walker Hayes is getting that, but more because the production's atrocious rather than any offense I'm taking. And there's actually a tie for dishonorable mention. Come Back as a Country Boy by Blake Shelton, and I Love You So by the Walters, the latter of which might be innocuous, but pisses me off in a lot of surprising ways. Anyway, next week is the Weeknd's album bomb for Dawn FM. Maybe we'll sneak a song or two through, we'll have to see, stay tuned for that. But until then, I'm Mark, you're watching Billboard Breakdown, affiliated with Spectrum Pulse, and I'll see you next time.